I deleted all social media, didn't drink, didn't even talk to guys at the time. I was like, I am only focusing on me for this time. And I already knew how the brain worked, but I didn't know how to change my own brain. I found my purpose, my peace, and my passion. I found that anyone can be okay if they work on themselves internally. Mindfulness is huge, genuinely creating space in your mind, in your brain to like detach from stress, from immediate emotional reactions. You have to create that sort of pause in your mind. You need the affirmation to align with your energy. So what I like to say is do elevations, not affirmations. I always say that if you have a brain that's fully functional, you can change, because your brain has the beautiful ability of neuroplasticity.
Tell us, what's neuroplasticity?
Neuroplasticity is pretty much the coolest thing that we can do as humans, in my opinion.
You're listening to the Real Business Connections Network. Real Business Connections Network. Powered by Balbert Marketing, LLC. Subscribe now and check us out at realbusinessconnections.com. Enjoy the show.
I'm a 32-year-old who just tore his rotator cuff, and I'm starting to feel like an old dog in some ways. So my big question always is, like, can you teach an old dog new tricks? And what I mean is, like, can people actually change? If I'm set in my ways, can I change, or is it too late?
You know, I always say that if you have a brain that's fully functional, you can change, because your brain has the beautiful ability of neuroplasticity. And that means on a very deeply integrated level, you can change. And sometimes it's hard, especially if you're very stuck in a certain pattern. But with the right intention and the right resources, yes, you can change and you can improve.
Tell us, what's neuroplasticity?
Neuroplasticity is pretty much the coolest thing that we can do as humans, in my opinion. But it's the ability of our brain to adapt and adjust depending on our habits, our behaviors, our thoughts, our actions. Just anything that we do changes our brain, no matter how big or how small. With repetition, the more it changes in a certain direction. So when you're building a habit, some people say it takes 66 days. And that's because your brain changes, but it takes time. But it does literally become a neural pattern when you repeat something enough.
So let's talk about making that change. Because, Sienna, I follow you on LinkedIn. Your content's concise. It's fun. You make learning about like mindset and the brain super interesting, which can be kind of a difficult task. And I joke about being an old dog because I know personally, like, we can get better, even just a little bit better every single day. But my goal is to help make it easy for the listener today. So give us as many as come to mind, but what are some easy ways to start improving our mindset today?
Yes, mindset, as well as just like your ability for your brain to change, are
Yes.
two things I love to talk about. First, a really easy thing to do is exercise more. And that sounds kind of not related, but what exercise is doing is it's releasing this thing called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which is BDNF, and that allows you to have better memory. It allows you to make more connections in your brain to an extent. So that is just one small habit that you can do to improve your ability of your brain to change. As far as mindset goes, repetition is key. So when you want to have a certain mindset that's maybe more confident, you want to repeat things related to someone who's confident. So phrases. I do believe in affirmations when they're done right. So if you repeat something you don't believe, it's probably not going to stick, and it's probably not going to change your brain in the direction you want. You need the affirmation to align with your energy. So what I like to say is do elevations, not affirmations, which is when you change your physical state and then repeat words that actually resonate with you. So it doesn't have to be, I am a fully confident person, if you're not. But if you're building it, you could do a breathing exercise, get your brain flowing, get energy in your body, and then repeat, I am building my confidence. Something that is a bridge, but is getting you where you want to go. That is a great tool to begin shifting your mindset.
Do you have a mic to drop?
Do I have a
Do you have a mic to drop?
No, it's stationary.
So I'm having light bulbs because I've told this story before where, like, back in the day, I had a little bit of a drinking issue.
Mhm.
And I would do my morning affirmations looking at myself in the mirror with bloodshot eyes. And I like emotionally felt disconnected and felt like I
Mhm.
was a liar. And you're providing clarity of why I had that reaction. So if our actions are misaligned with what we're trying to affirm and what we're trying to do, it sounds like chemically we might even have a reaction, like something's off, right?
Mhm. And that can make like a very serious misalignment in your body and in your mind. And what I like that you mentioned saying it in the mirror too, because that is a great tool if you use it right. And
Yeah.
another trick that works for some people is pretend or try to imagine what it would feel like if you believed the words you were saying. So it's kind of like a mental trick while you're doing an affirmation, but you're looking at yourself. And if you're saying, like, if you're trying to build self love and you're telling yourself, I'm beautiful, and you don't believe it, you can close your eyes and pause and try to feel what it would be like if you believed that. And then eventually through time and through other practices, you'll actually begin to believe it. But you can't slap on an affirmation on someone who has something internal they need to work on and hope for the best that it's going to become true. You have to align your actions with it. Like, you can't only work on mindset, you have to work on aligning your mindset with your actions to achieve what you want to do. Otherwise, you're just missing half of the equation. It's not going to work nearly as well, if at all.
You need the and I love you mentioned the full equation and you mentioned the emotional piece because so this isn't just like logical, like I'm confident and attractive and I'm a millionaire. It's actually like feeling the feeling of being that being, right? Actually like feeling it.
It's
I find
more that, I
yeah,
think.
yeah, yeah. That's probably the hardest part.
But it's also
So
the most powerful because when you train your brain to feel the emotions you're trying to reach, you can have your desired outcome virtually instantly. Because when you're trying to achieve a goal, but that goal is attached to an emotion, if you can pull those emotions into the present, you are aligning yourself to get there in action, but you're also living how you want to live, if that
mm,
makes sense.
it does. But a lot of people like they feel kind of like an imposter and they're like, well, I'm not that person yet, Sienna. Like, who am I to pretend I'm this or that? What I'm not that person yet. Well, what do you tell me to do here?
Mhm. Well, if you want to be that person, you have to align your mind first. And if you can put your mind there, you follow it with action and eventually you'll get there. So why not set your mind where you want it to go right now?
Mm. So we talked about exercise. I'm gonna just imagine sleep's super tied to that as well.
Yes.
We
Sleep
talked
is
about the affirmation and like feeling it and being it. What other pieces in the puzzle are there to slowly, you mentioned neuroplasticity. What are other pieces of the puzzle to keep expanding the mind, the brain, and growing?
Mhm. Mindfulness is huge, genuinely creating space in your mind, in your brain to like detach from stress, from immediate emotional reactions. You have to create that sort of pause in your mind to be able to improve. If there's no pause and you're always just instantly reacting how you used to react, you can't choose to act differently or think differently. Mindfulness is what creates that gap for you to choose to improve.
But if I pause, am I going to look like a crazy person just staring off into space?
No, not through practice, and you can use visualization too if you're working on, like, a specific response, but you have to be able to take that pause. It doesn't have to be long, but when you have, like, an innate angry response maybe, mindfulness will help you be able to see you're responding and you don't like your response maybe, but you're able to be aware of, "This is a natural response because of my past and things that have happened, but I can choose one of two things right now. I can respond through this emotion, or I can take a break and I can breathe and I can recenter and choose how I want to respond, maybe even remove myself from the situation. But it allows you that freedom to change the course of what's happening.
Allows you to change it.
Mhm.
So I can either ask, I have a question in mind, or are there other pieces of the puzzle that you think important to mention here?
I think overall health is huge. Physical health is tied with exercise, but also if you're not feeding your brain right, it's not going to operate right. You can't change it and as best you could if you were feeding it right. As well as mindfulness is huge, and thought replacement is huge. That does relate to affirmations, but just being conscious of what's going on in your head and consciously shifting what you don't want to hear anymore, which takes time and practice, but it's absolutely possible.
I know we don't have a ton of time. I'm happy we dove right in, but I wanted to slow down for one moment to ask the big question here. Why are you so passionate about this kind of stuff? Like, where did your why come from? Why is this such like, I can tell it lights you up.
It does.
And like, I didn't even start considering this stuff until I was in a super dark place and realized I needed to get out of it. You avoided, maybe you were in that dark place, but it seems like you're at a young age doing it right the first time. It's what I'm
Mhm.
perceiving. But I'm going to stop talking. You tell me.
No, you're good. I was in the middle of getting my neuroscience degree when I realized I was not in a good space mentally and physically, but I was 100% in denial. So I didn't realize that I had a lot of challenges, including perpetually seeming anxiety. Like I was always in a state of stress. And I also battled a couple of eating disorders, depression, and just so many things that I just pushed off and shoved into the I'm okay box. And then it wasn't until I removed myself from my situation, I dedicated 2 months to just working on me. I deleted all social media, didn't drink,
Well,
didn't even talk to guys at the time. I was like, I am only focusing on me for this time. And I set a list of goals. I really worked on my mind, personal development, and I already knew how the brain worked, but I didn't know how to change my own brain. So I was like, okay, I know I can change. How do I do this myself? And so in those 2 months, I got out, and it was the biggest blessing of my life. I found my purpose, my peace, and my passion. I found that anyone can be okay if they work on themselves internally, and that you can see beauty in yourself and in life around you each and every day if you change your mind. But you could also see life as a very dark and just a place where you're stuck. And it all depends on how you're treating yourself. And when I saw that, I got to my part where I was like, okay, this is awesome. I love life. I see gratitude every day in everything. And I just see so much beauty. All I want to do is help other people see that. Like no one has to live in a state of stress 24/7. They shouldn't. And I've been there. It's awful. But like some people don't even realize they're there until they're out. Like I didn't. And the relativity, I was shocked. I was like, wow, I can't believe I was living like that. But I have to teach other people how to do this because it's just life changing.
we started here, but to come in full circle, it sounds like we have a choice.
Hmm.
If we're in a tough place, we have a choice to start making changes. And if we're in a fantastic place, it sounds like we have a choice to just get even better.
Yeah,
It doesn't
exactly.
always have to be a problem. We could do good and still just keep getting better, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah.
So, as always, I like to give a integration assignment, a homework assignment for the listener. I don't want to forget. I'm already a huge fan of yours on LinkedIn. I'm following Sienna on LinkedIn. That's in the notes. If
Mhm.
someone wants to hear more about your story, learn more about the neuroscience and of the brain and mindset and
Mhm.
habits, or work with you, any of those things, how can we serve and support you?
I believe everything that you just said is on my website, which is www.throughrane, which is RANE, and then it's through just like passing through .com. And that has all of my information, more details on neuroplasticity, and more details on how to get in touch with me personally.
That's in the description. And seriously, guys, like all you have to do is boop, hit it, and it'll open it up. Or take a screenshot if you're running or doing something right now and do it
Mhm.
later. But and if you're running right now, you might not be able to write this down. Take this screenshot. You have a pen and paper like Ben. You get to give us homework. I don't like
Mhm.
shelf help. Like, what's the point of this podcast if we don't change anything?
I love that.
So
Mhm.
give us something simple, easy that I can start doing like literally now or today.
Mhm. I think something that you wouldn't do daily, but could give you really good insight into your own mindset and how to shift it would be take a moment to write down the 5 most common thoughts that you have and really think about that and then review them and then make another list of 5 thoughts you would want to have regularly and see if they align, see if they're drastically different. And that might be a sign that you should enter in some sort of mindset work, mindfulness practices, gratitude practices. I know there's a lot of things on the internet that are just instantly available as far as those go that are free, but just become more aware of what you're saying to yourself on a daily basis. I think that is the first step to changing your mindset.
So you're here for us. There's a lot of resources, but step one is just know thyself.
Correct. Yeah. You don't know where you need to go if you don't know where you are right now.
Okay. I don't know what we missed other than so many things. I'm going to continue to support you. And it sounds like, what was it? ThroughRane.com?
Mhm.
ThroughRane.com, LinkedIn, Sienna. How do I pronounce your last name? Colonese?
Colonies.
Colonese. That's all in
Mhm.
the notes. And we'll talk soon. Thanks for coming on the
Yes.
show.
Yes, please. Thank you so much for having me. It was tons of fun.